Let me ask you one question. Why do so many design firms become so much more chaotic as they grow? Most people probably assume that it's because large businesses are naturally more complex, so therefore they become chaotic. But I don't think that's true. Growth doesn't expose your strengths, it exposes your shortcuts. There's a nuance here: memory, conversation, founder dependency, founder intuition. They aren't always shortcuts. In a 5% studio doing bespoke work, the founder's memory is the system. The relationship is the process. The conversation is the documentation. That isn't broken, it's appropriately scaled. The problem begins when business outgrows that scales and still continues to behave as if it hasn't. When you're managing a bunch of projects, memory works, conversations work, founder can still be close to every important decision. The cracks exist, but they're small enough right now. But as your business grows, these shortcuts they stop working. Suddenly projects begin slipping through the gaps, decisions become harder, teams become less aligned, the business feels chaotic. Let's take an example. There's a 22% architecture firm which was thriving on 5 projects. At 10 projects, the founder was still reviewing every drawing set before issue. At 15 projects, something broke. A set went to the contractor with a structural note from an old iteration. The note had been resolved in a conversation between the PM and the structural engineer, but never updated in the model. The contractor priced it, the client approved it. The error cost money and, of course, time, 3 weeks to schedule. The firm did not have a drawing review problem, they had a communication archaeology problem. At 5 projects, the founder heard every important conversation. At 15, he did not, and there was no system to replace his ears. But see, growth did not create this chaos, it exposed the business problem. It exposed that the business itself was relying on memory instead of a system, conversations instead of a documented decision system, and experience instead of repeatable processes. Thing is, memory works until success breaks it. That's why some firms become stronger as they grow bigger without being overwhelmed. The difference is not talent between those firms and chaotic firms, it's consistency. And here's the other boundary: some firms overcorrect. They standardize everything, including the creative process, taking the human cognitive element out of it. They mandate the same design methodology for every project type. They require the same deliverable set regardless of client need. They create operational consistency at the cost of creative flexibility. That's not scaling, that's constriction. The firms that scale successfully, they don't standardize creativity, they standardize everything around creativity. How projects begin, how decisions are documented, how changes are approved, how risks are managed, how performance is measured. The consistency gives creative teams more freedom, not less, because they're not repeatedly solving the same problem, the same operational problem, project after project after project. See, every growing business eventually chooses between documentation and chaos. But consistency alone isn't enough. Information also has to scale. The right person needs the right information at the right time, not every piece of information, only the information that explicitly requires his action. Mature organizations don't depend on everyone knowing everything about every single project. They require on clear ownership, clear processes, clear visibility. At Immaculate Platform, that's exactly how we think about scaling. Not as adding more people or managing more projects, but as building an operating system where every completed project strengthens the next one. It makes the next one much easier to develop, where lessons become processes, data becomes decisions, and patterns they become permanent, organizational, business level improvements. Because that's what scaling really looks like. It does not look like doing more work. It looks like doing more work without proportionally increasing effort, uncertainty, or management overhead. So here's my challenge for you. Imagine your firm just doubled in size tomorrow. Would your current way of working remain just as predictable, or would it simply create twice as many meetings, twice as many bottlenecks, twice as many approvals? Because projects, they don't make firms stronger. Learning from historical projects for the future projects, that makes firms stronger. The firms that grow sustainably, they're not the ones that avoid problems. They're the ones that build systems to ensure every problem only needs to be solved one time. That's how organizations compound, and that's how great firms stay great as they grow. Everything you've seen in this video and will continue to see as part of videos in this series is based on principles that we've spent years building into the Immaculate Platform. If you'd like to experience them inside an operating system built ground up purely for design and architecture firms, start your free trial today at immaculate.co.in/trial. Thank you.